Extremely crazy Titanic facts no one knew. 1. Lifeboats. The day before the sinking, Captain Edward Smith called off a lifeboat drill. However, the reason behind the decision is still unknown. Only 20 lifeboats were present on the Titanic, despite the fact that it had a capacity for 64. In order to make the decks less crowded, fewer lifeboats were deployed. After the collision with the iceberg, the first lifeboat was lodged just an hour later. Despite having room for 65 people, it only carried 28 passengers. If all of the available space in the lifeboats had been used, more than half of the passengers would have survived the collision. A tragically smaller number of people were only permitted in the 20 lifeboats, which had the capacity to hold 1,178 people. Among the 20 lifeboats, only 18 were successfully lodged. To release all of the lifeboats took 80 minutes. 2. Titanic orphans. 2 young children, ages 4 and 2, were saved by the final lifeboat when the RMS Titanic sank on April 14, 1912. The Novertel family, including their father Michel, Edmund, and Michelle, all sailed on the Titanic. He had taken his sons from their mother and intended to bring them to America. However, because the crew only let women and kids into the lifeboats, their father was left behind and perished on the sinking ship. After the disaster, they were referred to as the Titanic orphans. These young children were left unclaimed by any guardian because they only knew their nicknames and spoke French. They weren't reunited with their mother until May 1912 at the latest. 3. Plagued by tragedy right from the start. During the 26th month of the Titanic's construction, which took place at the Harland and Wolff shipyard in Belfast, 8 workers perished in 28 serious accidents and 218 minor accidents were recorded. However, who would have imagined that this was such a small number and that a strange incident would occur in the near future? The majority of the 8 fatalities were caused by injuries from falls, either from the ship or the surrounding staging. 4. The legendary baker. The RMS Titanic's head baker was Charles Yowan. He was able to endure 3 hours in the bitterly cold waters of the Atlantic before being saved by lifeboats. Charles's first responsibility after learning of the sinking was to oversee and prepare loaves of bread so that those in the lifeboats wouldn't go hungry until they were rescued. While everyone was running around in fear, he went to his room and drank brandy first. Charles was essentially the last person to leave the ship as it sank. He emphasized that drinking alcohol enabled him to stay warm in the chilly water for 3 hours. 5. Fake funnels of the Titanic. The Titanic had 4 funnels, only 3 of which were operational. The first 3 funnels had connections to the furnaces, but the 4th was a fake. A ventilation shaft for the kitchen served as the primary purpose of the 4th funnel. It was built to add some symmetry to the ship's majestic and beautiful appearance. The other 3 funnels released soot and smoke. 6. The wealthiest man aboard. The wealth of the Astor family was passed down to John Jacob Astor IV. He was born in 1864. He completed his education abroad and then came home to run the family business. On April 10, 1912, he and his second wife, Madeleine Force, boarded the Titanic in Paris. They were accompanied by a group. He was the richest person on the ship, with an estimated net worth of $85 million. His wealth is equivalent to $2 billion today. His body was pulled from the water by rescue teams, who then laid him to rest in Trinity Cemetery in New York. 7. A graveyard of shoes. A picture of a strange pair of shoes lying on the ground at the crash site was taken in 2004. Unbelievably, the public visited to view this image on the 100th anniversary of the Titanic sinking. The shoes were so close together that they probably were once on a victim, and the body has since disintegrated. However, the movie's director claimed that despite numerous visits, no human remains have ever been discovered at the crash site. He claimed that since the bones would have disintegrated relatively quickly at this depth, they won't be discovered. The only things left of the people who failed to survive are the clothes they were wearing and their belongings, mainly their shoes. Shoes found closely together more than likely are where a victim's body came to rest.